Hello, everyone. Welcome to FPL, a podcast where high school best friends and football addicts discuss their trials and tribulations with the Fantasy Premier League. This is episode 3. If I sound pissed off, it's because of two people, Hyung Min Son and Danny Ings. I will not say more, I will save it for later. But let's begin. Today, we have a guest, a fourth member in our podcast. If you feel that we're going to be adding one new person on every episode, that's not true. The four of us had decided to do this right from the start, but we didn't have Aman and Bharat um, till now. But on the third episode, the gang is together.
Yay!
Yay!
Welcome, Bharat. How's it going?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. My first question is: are we allowed to curse on this? Because seeing how my game weeks have gone, I think I might be
This is a
tempted
special
to.
episode. This is a special episode where we're allowed to curse, Ishan's allowed to cry, we're allowed to do whatever we want.
And
Sounds good.
yeah, Aman cursed last time when he started this trend. It's become normal now.
Yeah, and then he apologized after doing it. I don't think I'm
That's very
gonna
sweet of him to
apologize.
How's your team looking, man? I think we've all had really terrible game weeks. Shut up, Aman. I can see your smug ass face. You didn't transfer out, Son. Very good for you. We're not talking to you right now. We're talking to Bharat. Bharat, how's your team looking?
It's been a rough couple of weeks, dude. My overall rank has been the lowest that I can remember in the first couple of game weeks. I know it's early days, but I think when I started out, I had a strategy in mind, which is all gone all over the place at this point. I was going to be budget striking options, heavy on midfield, apart from Trent, budget defenders as well, because there were so many midfield options. But at this point, it's everything's just been nuts with Calvert-Lewin and Mitrovic and Callum Wilson. So many tagging options, and the premium striking options like Martial, Werner haven't really been doing well. Apart from Kane and his anomaly for week is what I'm going to call it, because I don't plan on taking him. But yeah, it's been a rough start, but hopefully I'm going to stabilize going forward.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can completely agree with all those statements. I feel like
Yeah.
there's not been I know we've been playing this game for probably at least 10 years, at least.
Yeah.
And I think there hasn't been one season where there have been so many options and so much variance in the game.
Definitely. I mean, we see it's not just the top six that, or the traditional top six, seeing how Arsenal and Tottenham I don't really think they're worth it. But there are so many options outside of those as well now with Everton, with Wolves as usual. It's hard to really nail down a midfield. There are good budget options, there are good premium options, there are good mid-level options. So it's definitely confusing, but. I think it will stabilize over the course of the season. Maybe the next few weeks we'll see some normal point scorers that be the usual suspects really get back in form. That's the hope. Well, that we've seen Salah, Mane, De Bruyne all perform. Sterling's still pending, but we've seen the big names come to the forefront. So hopefully it's going to continue, because I do have a couple of those in my team. But yeah.
Still early days, yeah, for sure. I mean, the idea of early season especially is that a lot of players are still coming back, getting to fitness. A lot of defenses are still sleeping, and I think that's what we've seen with crazy scorelines. But obviously you weren't there for the first two episodes of our podcast. So maybe just give us a flavor of what happened with your team in these 2 game weeks. What did you pick, and what really went wrong? Because obviously shit really went down the hole again.
It did. So my first game week, of course, we didn't have any United and City options that week since they had no fixtures. So I didn't take any of them. I did have a plan in mind to bring them in the following week. So I started with 2 4.5 keepers. I like to have those 2 rotational options. And the 2 options that I thought at the start of the season with a clean slate, I thought Matt Ryan and McCarthy from Southampton, I thought they'd be 2 good, reasonable options. And then for my defense, I had Trent, of course. He's pretty much a no-brainer. At this point, I don't really want him, but if I don't have him and he performs, you're screwed just because everyone has him. His ownership is insane. So you really just have to take him at this point. And then I had Mitchell, who also most people have, the budget 4.0 defender, who, of course, has been a really good
Did you bench him?
asset. Mitchell from Crystal Palace.
No, did you bench him both times?
I did, yeah. I played him both times as well, and he's been decent. Actually, you know what? You're right. I didn't play him against United because in game week 2 we had Palace playing United. We'll get to game week 2. That was just a nightmare of a week. I don't think I've had a worse week that I can remember in the last decade. But yeah, I had Egan from Sheffield, which is a mistake in my defense. Seeing how Sheffield, I think, seeing how they've been the last couple of weeks, seeing how they ended the season last season as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they'll be struggling this year for a top half finish. Maybe even bottom 5. I see them struggling to stay in division, but I'm going to stay away from the Sheffield United players at this point. And then I had Vinagre, who for Wolves, who is just another massive disappointment. He didn't start game week 1, started game week 2, and I removed him in game week 2. Well, he didn't start game week 2, but seeing how Wolves' left back option is injured now, I don't know. I haven't looked into how serious that injury is, but Vinagre could be a game changer going forward if that's a serious injury. Then I had Peters from Burnley, another big mistake. Just because I forgot that Charlie Taylor is a left back and he would start for Burnley. And I wanted a Burnley defender just because, they year on year consistently they have, they keep clean sheets, good defense. Sean Dyche, I like his style of management for FPL defenders only. I don't like his football at all. And then for midfield, I had the 3 big ones, Aubameyang, Mane and Salah. I wanted to keep Aubameyang and Salah. I think they were no-brainers. Mane was in a weird way a differential, just because he had lower ownership. A lot of people decided against taking him, and a lot of people decided to choose between Salah and Mane. So I thought I'd get that extra edge by taking them both, and then have 2 budget midfield options. One was Bissouma from Brighton, and the other was Soucek from West Ham. And one thing I've learned after game week 1 is never captain a differential option. You can keep a differential in your team, and Mane, even though he shouldn't really count as a differential, but he was game week 1, never captain a differential option. I captained him, missed out on those 20 points from Salah with that hat-trick. Really regretted it, but and it is what it is. And then the forward line was Werner, Mitrovic, and a budget option in Davis. Werner, again, he's been fire in the Bundesliga. I have high hopes for him. Mitrovic, championship top scorer last season, only attacking asset from Fulham. Everything comes through him in terms of goals. Have high hopes for him, and I'm going to hold on to him for a while. He's a good mid-level striking option. It was between him and Callum Wilson for me. I chose Mitrovic just because he has Premier League experience, and also he's not in a new team. He's played for Fulham before in the Premier League. Callum Wilson again has Premier League experience, but adjusting to a new surroundings, new manager, new team, new players around him. I thought it might take him a little while to get started. He did score his opening week, but I'm glad I stuck with Mitrovic. So that was my team in game week 1. Game week 2, I made a couple of transfers which I had planned in advance. I wanted to bring in Bruno Fernandes, and I brought him in. And I captained him as well. And my other transfer was removing Vinagre just because he didn't start game week 1, and seeing how he wasn't going to be first choice left back, and I thought his price would fall, so I dropped him and I brought in Dallas from Leeds. Again, attacking fullback. Not the best, I think, option going forward, just because the Leeds defense hasn't looked good this season. They were, conceded the least goals in the championship last year. So I was, and also, the manager is great. So I had high hopes, but I might consider holding on for a couple of weeks. But we'll see. I'm still on the fence about having a Leeds defender in my team. And I brought in Bruno, of course, captained him. My plan was going forward that I would bring in De Bruyne for Aubameyang as well in game week 3. And I'm sure we'll get to that later in the podcast how game week 3 plans are up in the air, not just for me but for most of us. So yeah, that's how my season's been so far. I started with a very low 50 points on average. That was the average for game week 1, but still pretty low. And then game week 2 extremely low with a 32-point haul. 59 was the average for that week. So I'm at an overall point tally of 78 right now, which is just despicable, with an overall rank of 5 million out of 6.8 million. That's the lowest that I can ever remember being. But it's better to start early and end on a higher than the other way around. So,
But I think, you mentioned one key lesson you learned, I guess, which at least from your perspective might hold true for you, which is never captain a differential. Another possible, I guess, lesson for you would be with respect to the player you transferred out for Bruno. And I think that's something you forgot to mention. Mane banged in 2 goals, didn't he?
Mane banged in 2 goals, and we can get to my game week 2 fiasco soon. But the player I removed, Mane, banged in 2 goals. Bruno, of course, United with a shit show at Palace. And also, I had 2 red cards in my team with Egan and Bissouma both getting sent off. I had Peters, who came on in the 40th minute, scored an own goal, and conceded 2, or 3, I think, and ended up with a -2. So it's been a rough week. The player I transferred out, Vinagre, of course, he came on and is likely to start at least for the foreseeable future. So it's been a rough week, I have to say. But I think Ishan is comparable in that sense, in terms of his decisions.
Giving each other competition for that. If we had like the worst game week of the week every week in this podcast, I think we'd
be a tie.
We've already found one for the entire season.
I don't think it's a tie. I don't. No, I took out 35 points from my team.
Okay, let's get to his team now. Okay,
I took out 35 points from my team for 3 points, and I took a hit. So I get a -1 and I lose 35 points. So.
Okay, hands up.
Don't forget the -4
hands up
for
if
the
you
transfers.
genuinely feared for Ishan's health during the Newcastle Spurs game.
Wait, but quickly, before we move on, Bharat, why did you captain Bruno when you said you don't want to captain differentials? Because Bruno was a pretty big differential.
Right. So, honestly, I didn't think Bruno would be a big captaincy risk, seeing how there were. I think Salah was facing Chelsea, and Aubameyang would have been a good captaincy option this week. But it was between Aubameyang and Bruno for me. So I just decided to go with my instinct. And I really did think the way Bruno ended the season, the way United was looking at the end of last season, with Bruno bringing in points every week in, week out, with the penalty record that United has and him being the penalty taker. I should have captained Aubameyang, though that didn't cost me as much as removing Mane did in retrospect. But I did think Bruno would be a really good captaincy pick. I'm not gonna, I don't want to jump the gun and remove him from my team or anything like that at this point, because I still do think United is gonna, get back up to speed. They looked better in the Carabao Cup as well, even though they were playing a lower division team. But I did go for Bruno just because of, I guess I went with my heart and not with my head, and that's the mistake that I guess a lot of us do make when it comes to FPL. But early lessons.
I don't think it's a mistake. I mean, in hindsight, it's a mistake. But after Project Restart, I think I definitely thought Bruno is an 11 to 12 million mid, priced at 10.5. I plan to probably remove Salah after game week 1 and get Bruno and spend that 1.5 on other areas of my team. But he scored a hat trick. He looked graded during pre-season. Mane looked sharper. So I don't think it's a mistake. And of course, we are United supporters. And I had Martial, Greenwood. All of us brought in United players, right? But they sucked. But who knows? In the next game, they might just turn up. That's how the Premier League is.
Okay, let's get this out of the way, guys. I mean, three of us are whining. There's one guy sitting out here with a smug ass face. Let him get his team done with. So,
Dude,
Aman,
listen, honestly,
how
this
was your
is
game
me
week?
trying
And
my
like,
utmost to not be smug. Because
sure, dude.
dude, honestly, it was luck. We spoke about it last week. I said that I was going to keep in Sun just for because I didn't want to do 2 transfers in 1 week and lose those 4 points. So it was dumb luck.
No, I mean that I think it's not. It's more than luck. I mean, it takes a lot to not get in a United player at that particular point in time when everyone's getting him in. I think that was a conscious decision in my opinion.
No, but it was also the fact that Lampard made my decision for me by not starting Pulisic, and then it turned out he was injured. And I had Pulisic in my first week. He was 8.5. I took him out for Greenwood, 7.5. And I have a lot of money in the bank now. The problem is, like Bharat, you said Spurs results in anomaly, and I agree. But is it like, can you take out a Spurs player at this point? I don't know, because their fixtures are just like they're Newcastle at home. And like Spurs and United have the best fixtures, and they're the most unpredictable teams at the moment. Like,
That's a big call. Spurs and United, according to you, best fixtures? Or you mean from the top 6?
Yeah, from the top.
What's that?
You mean from the top 6, I'm guessing?
Yeah, from the top 6.
Got
So not including Wolves, not including Everton.
Yeah.
So I was lucky, but the thing is, again, I said this last time when we were on. I tend to make a lot of my decisions based on what my competition is, and you guys are my competition. And now you guys are all running your wild cards. It really had me thinking whether I should run my wild card this game week. I didn't. We'll find out whether it comes back to bite me in the ass, because I don't know what your teams are like now.
Neither do we.
I think Aman already had Martial, which is why
Yeah.
I was desperate to convert my ings into Martial, so I had to let go of someone else to make that 0.5 gap. And after watching Spurs' first game, Son was the easy man out. But Aman already had him, so
Yeah, that makes sense.
and
Yeah.
he was patient, and he wasn't desperate to take that 4-point hit.
The thing
Yeah.
also is, Bharat, I think you posted earlier in the group about how don't captain differentials. That's why I didn't end up captaining Martial. Because I was like, I'm not going to go for Salah because they're playing
Yeah.
Chelsea. Who's my other option was Aubameyang, so I just went for him. It wasn't that big a deal because he only got 5 points and then 10
Yeah.
with him being captain.
He was
But,
pretty underwhelming, to be honest.
Aubameyang?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm off the Arsenal hype train. I thought they were great in preseason. I thought they were good in the Community Shield, blah blah blah. But again, they're just one of those teams you can't count on. You have to go for the big players, the Salahs, the Manes, the Insigne. I think Werner will be a big player eventually, but I mean, De Bruyne is again no brainer.
What are you
So
doing?
would
What are you
you-
doing with your team this week? Are you taking out Aubameyang for KDB?
Yeah, I took out Aubameyang for De Bruyne. And that's it again, just one transfer. Still, I've gone again for Greenwood and Martial. I was considering taking one of them out. Probably not Martial. I was considering taking out Greenwood. But Brighton play kind of an open game, especially against the big teams. They try to take the game against the big teams, which tends to work in favor of the bigger teams. Plus, United thumped them again last season, but we said that about Palace, and we
Yeah.
saw what happened. Like, it's such a worry.
So okay, I mean, do you bank a transfer as well?
No, I don't. I just
Okay.
have one
Okay.
because I made one last week as well, right?
Fair enough. So you're being super patient. Just give us a quick roundup of your team right now. So that's KDB and Salah, I'm guessing. And
KDB, Salah, Martial, the big players. I have Greenwood, Souček, Callum Robinson is my other striker who's not playing, who's not starting. I have Vinagre still, luckily, who I didn't end up taking out, and it's likely that he's going to start.
Yeah, he's starting.
I have Justin, Mitchell, and Alexander-Arnold. um, Ryan and McCarthy. Ryan got me a clean sheet last week, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'll probably play again a 4-5-1.
4-5-1.
I forget who my fifth midfielder is, but it's...
But I feel like your general principle, I don't know whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's just been go heavy in midfield, right? And I think that's paid off largely.
To begin with, my fifth midfielder is Son, of course.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to not make any big moves at the start of the season because the start of the season is just like nobody knows what's going to happen. And once things become stable, I think it also sucked for everyone to not have City and United play in that first week.
Yeah.
So you can't like going for one of those players was a huge gamble. Luckily, it didn't fuck me up the first week. It ended up working out well. I have Martial in my team without having to bring him in. But I think I have a few ideas about what I'm going to do over the next couple of weeks because I have enough money in the bank now to make a few transfers here and there.
Okay.
But this game week is pivotal in the sense that a lot of people I know, not including just you guys, have run their wild card.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a wild card. Nobody knows what to expect.
Yeah.
So just on that, like, what will convince you? I mean, obviously you're not convinced right now to go with the wild card, and probably that's the right decision given that everyone's going to be spending their wild card. You're going to be sitting there with your existing team, which currently might have a lot of the players you're bringing in. But what really will convince you? Do you have some sort of game week in mind for the wild card, or are you just gonna?
I don't have a game week in mind, but I have players in mind. Like Spurs specifically. If Bale plays and if he does what Bale does, I think he has to be brought in. He's 9.5. He's classified as a midfielder. He's playing up top. 4-3-3. That front three is Mourinho's dream. Pace, precision, good finishing. They're all clinical in front of goal. But the thing is, Bale, he hasn't played in ages. He's off match fitness. And I also don't know if Spurs can sustain, or if they're a consistent enough team to bank one of their players. I think if Spurs or Bale start to perform, and then if Bruno does what he does what he did after Project Restart, that'll make me really question whether I should bring these guys in, and that might end up making me play my wild card. But with regard to a lot of the players who I already have, I don't plan on changing my defense at all.
Okay.
Justin is fantastic. He's so cheap. Leicester are decent. I'm not taking out Alexander-Arnold for any reason, because the same reason you said, too many people have him. And then Salah and Aubameyang, they're like a toss-up.
You don't have
I think I'm
Aubameyang
just going
anymore. KDB, right?
Sorry?
You have KDB, right?
Again, KDB is not going anywhere. This is his season, in my opinion. I think there's no David Silva in that midfield. Everything's going to go through KDB. I think Foden is a really good option. He's cheap. Eventually, and he's starting games and he's already scoring and assisting. I think I'll get him in. I'll definitely get Foden in at some point. But as of now, I have not really thought about playing my wild card for any for out of my own desire. I was only thinking about playing it because you guys were playing.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe let's try and sort of dissect each one of our game weeks and try and look at what really brought us into that decision to make that wild card. So I just want to start with Ishan. Ishan, when
I'm going last.
Atta, why don't you start actually?
Okay.
Because you didn't do that. You were decent last week. You weren't as bad as these guys. A lot of other guys.
So I think my reasoning behind the wild card is pure and simple. I think it was just that I looked at my team, which with respect to structure, I felt my team had a lot of issues. I obviously started the season with a really sort of two premiums, two cheapos midfield, I would say. I don't think that was my natural game. Like my natural game generally is cheaper up top, cheaper on the forward line, a little heavier on the midfield. And one conscious decision I made at the start of the season, which weirdly enough, 2 game weeks in, I'm already doubting, is I made the decision to go with both Trent and Robbo. And as it so happens, there's just so many defensive options. It seems so tasty to me right now that I genuinely feel like they will all rise in price and they will not be available to me later on. And
Yeah.
I think that was not the pivotal decision. The pivotal decision really was team structure. That convinced me that I wanted to make the wild card immediately. And I generally trust my style to be a little more aggressive in terms of these moves rather than the more patient sort of. I don't wait for players. If I see that a particular player is sort of looking really good, I want him in my team immediately because I just I enjoy watching games. I'm a little calmer watching games then rather than always being stressed out about these players. So I always knew at the start of the season that this was the game week that I would bring De Bruyne in for Aubameyang, but then there were just so many more options and I didn't see myself making a -12. And I think the Bissouma red card, just like once that happened, I was just like, dude, enough is enough. Like I think there was this point of time in that game where I said that if Wilson probably scores a hat trick, that's the only way I probably even break even on this game week. And literally at the end of the game, fucking Bissouma went and got a red card, dude. I was just like, dude, this is a sign from the gods. And then
Wait, did you have Bissouma on your team?
yeah, I had Bissouma. I had Bissouma. He was on the bench, like didn't matter, but just like it just told me that literally it was a sign. And more than anything, I think I also was like, if I want to play a wild card this week, and it seemed like I wouldn't be patient, I was just like, I might as well activate it early so I can capture the price rises, right? I didn't want to be playing the wild card later in the week and brewing the opportunity to bring in a lot of players at like 0.1 to 0.2 price lesser. So that was another decision. That was another reason I sort of played the wild card. But Bharat, what is your decision? When did you actually play the wild card? Because I played it pretty much, I would say, Monday. Monday was when I decided.
So I played it the second the games ended on Sunday.
Yeah.
I decided to play my wild card, and one thing that I did was, so somehow over the first couple of weeks, my team value fell to 99.7 just because of my stupidity. It just happened to fall, and I was already struggling at that point. So I decided I'll play my wild card and get in all the players that I anticipate with price rises, whether or not I want them.
Yeah.
So I got in Son, I got in Castagne, I got in Bruno, I got in KDB, I got in every Mitrovic, Bamford. I don't want a lot of these players, but I got them all in my wildcard because I knew I would be able to take them out. And my team value has already gone up to 100.8. So I gained that 1.1 billion over 4 days because I brought in all of those players. Martinez from Aston Villa, Justin. I don't want Justin and Castagne both in my team because I'm not going to double on Leicester defense. But so that really helped with my team value going up, and now I can afford a better team. And those extra 0.1, 0.2 millions, those can make a huge difference,
For sure.
especially early on when some players are rising, some are falling. But my wildcard decision was pretty much like despite playing my wildcard, I would still advise anyone to not play it, especially this season, given the unpredictability of coronavirus. We've seen how I think it was Leighton Orient who had a bunch of players who tested positive. Their game got called off. You don't know if it's going to happen in the Premier League at some point. It's unlikely that it'll happen. More maybe out of 20 teams, unlikely that maybe 10 or 12 at a time would test, something like that, and games would be called off. But for a situation like that, I wanted to hold on to my wild card at least as long as possible. Last season, I played it in game week 16 or something, which was really late on. But this year, unfortunately, just given the circumstances, given how my team performed, I knew values would go down. Like you said, I wanted to capture the price rises as early as possible. And simple as I didn't have the patience to wait. I just had to do it. I think like Aman mentioned earlier in the group that he played his wild card really early last season. He finished top of the league. It's just a matter of when you play a wild card, you have to make sure you're thinking long term. You're thinking about players who are fixture proof. Don't look at fixtures, in the short term for players like KDB or Trent or I guess Salah would also be one of those players. You get them in no matter what. You keep them long term because over the course of the season, you have to respect what those players have done in the past, and they will perform. They will do it again. I have a lot of confidence in someone like De Bruyne. I messed up game week 2, not bringing in De Bruyne ahead of Bruno Fernandes. That was my toss-up. Game week 2, De Bruyne or Bruno, and game week 3, De Bruyne or Bruno. So I had to decide which one I want to bring in first. I saw that Wolves away fixture. I saw the Crystal Palace at home fixture. Went with the fixture, but De Bruyne is one of those players that no matter what happens, he has to be in your team no matter who he's playing. And I completely forgot, and I guess I've been off it in that sense. I forgot that he takes penalties as well, because with City it's so unpredictable.
He's like, I think De Bruyne with I was always on the fence with De Bruyne earlier last season because I always felt that when I'm spending the same amount for a City asset, Sterling makes more sense because Sterling's a little more attacking, gets more shots in the box, a little more explosive almost. But De Bruyne with penalties is just now different gravy.
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
And we may be proven wrong. Sterling is the kind of guy that explodes. He comes in, scores 5 goals in 2 games, and you're just like, shit, I need to get him in. And then he's blanks for the next 10 game weeks. And that's just typical Sterling. So you have to time him right. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of that's to do with Sterling is the kind of player you have to look at fixtures for. You see a Brighton at home. Brighton is not a great example, but you see a Fulham at home. You want a Sterling. You see any last season's teams like Norwich. You wanted Sterling against those teams. So it's just he's that kind of player. But De Bruyne is like you have to have him no matter what.
Yeah. Sterling's more like a short-term captaincy potentially.
Yeah, and that's similar to Aubameyang for me as well. Arsenal is a super unpredictable team. I can't bank on him. As a striker, he's never coming into my team unless Arsenal has a double game week. This season, they made it a little spicy by making him midfielder. He's still playing out wide, so that's promising that he's not playing through the middle because then he has to be in your team. He's still coming in, cutting in from the left, which is still an attractive option. But you compare him to Salah and Bruno and De Bruyne and even someone like Mane. I just can't fit him into my team right now. Arsenal, I can't, like Aman mentioned, I can't rely on them long term. I may be proven wrong. Aubameyang is a 200-point a season player as a striker. So as a midfielder, he can really punish my decisions. But unfortunately, I just can't make room for him right now.
So Sean, finally, which point through your mental breakdown this week did you decide to finally play that wild card?
I'm going last.
Dude, it's your chance now. Aman's not playing the wild card.
Yeah, we can talk about your wild card.
Okay, I mean, so basic decision, right? So I mean, I've already talked about why I played the wild card. I think we're going to go to the team itself later. So just talk about why you're playing the wild card this week.
Are those tears, Ishan? Are you wiping your tears?
So, okay, just for everyone's clarification, right? Let's get this clear. Ishan transferred out Son and Ings this week. He brought in Martial and Greenwood. Son scored 4 goals. Ings scored 2. Ishan was on the fence whether to remove Son or not, but I think over the podcast last week, Ishan and Aman both discussed it, and Ishan decided to remove Son. At some point this week, during the games, Ishan messaged me saying he was ready to quit FPL, and it's taken a lot of convincing, and he's still not 100% convinced, he might still quit. But yeah, he is playing the game, so kudos to Ishan. But it takes some level of the FPL gods being against you for something as bad as this to happen. I genuinely have played the game for so long, but I've never had
who that FPL god is? It's Mourinho.
No, honestly, Aman, I beg to differ. I feel like it was Hasenhüttl, man. I feel like it was Hasenhüttl who screwed his team up. A team that was doing really well first half, they just crumbled because they seemed to make the same mistake again and again.
And I mean, it just makes sense, right? But that it had to happen against Mourinho, who just exploits this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it's also the Glazers who are not letting United reach their potential.
I think Ishan's just saying words right now. He's trying to talk.
He's processing.
No, I'm saying United haven't started the season well because it hasn't been a great summer.
yeah. But I read that they lost 100 million euros so far because of the pandemic.
Yeah, and how many have they lost to the Glazers?
I mean, I think it's United, of course, is being one of the richest clubs in the world. They have also suffered a lot. Just seeing, even clubs like Barcelona and Real Madrid are suffering with the pandemic more than the other clubs, just because the richer you are, the more you suffer. I think that's the trend that we've been seeing. Chelsea, of course, has been, different because they didn't spend the last couple of windows last season, and also they still haven't invested the money they got for Morata and Hazard, a lot of which they've reinvested now. So Chelsea's a different case. But United, of course, I mean, we can talk about the owners, we can talk about the pandemic, but what the players that are on the pitch that played against Palace were the same players that played at the end of last season. And either, they're running out of legs at this point, they're just really tired. Even I thought they'd be refreshed at the start of the season, but they still did look off the pace. Again, tactically, I've never really understood some of Solskjaer's decision making. But I do see light at the end of the tunnel. I do think they're gonna get back. They have it in them. I mean, we saw the way they performed after Project Restart. We saw the way they were playing against a lot of the teams. So I would still hold on to those United assets. Maybe not double down on them, but like have at least one in there for when they explode. Because when they explode, all of them perform.
Are you having a United player in your wildcard team at the moment?
At the moment I still have Bruno in there. And the only reason I have Bruno and not maybe Martial is because I'm going for a cheaper strike force at this point and heavy on the midfield. I may switch up. The reason I have Bruno is because I don't have Greenwood right now. So if I end up, we can get into it, but I also have James Rodriguez. One of the reasons I took him was because Everton looked great. He looks really good. He looks like he's fit in really, really well into the Premier League. The pace of play suiting him. He's doing really well. Everton have decent fixtures. A great manager, a great team, a great lineup as well, comparable with a lot of the top six. But James, I don't know if he's an FPL player, I don't know if he's going to get us like goals and assists week in, week out. He's going to be really effective for Everton. The reason I have him is, like I said, I wanted to capture his price rise to raise my team value. So I got him at 7.5. He's up to 7.6 now.
But
so I may switch up.
Sell him immediately before your wildcard?
I'm considering I may switch up James and Greenwood and then take out Bruno for maybe a Son, just because Son is one of those players who, when he hits a purple patch, he just keeps going. This has happened year in, year out. He's had a stretch of 4 or 5 game weeks where he scored insane amount of goals.
Has this happened under Mourinho though?
Yeah, I guess not. It happened when Kane was out injured last season and Son was playing through the middle. He was performing week in, week out. Other than that, of course, it's hard to predict. But that extra 1.5 is tempting, given how Bruno and United were looking off the pace. But I don't want to just let go of my United assets right now. I'm still trying to figure out if I do take Son for that extra 1.5 in the bank, I may just keep it in the bank, because seeing how unpredictable Spurs United are, I do want that extra money in my bank to bring back in a United asset if I do end up taking them out this week.
So the way I understand it, you currently have James and Bruno, but it's potentially Greenwood and Bruno
and Son.
Oh, or even Greenwood and Son.
One
of those. So you definitely, at the least, will go with one United asset. It's going to be either Bruno or Greenwood. Yep.
I think so. I'm staying away from Rashford right now. Martial, like I said, I can't afford a 9 million striker, especially if if I'm going heavy on the midfield and also upgrading my defenders. I've always started out a season with budget defenders, and I've always regretted it. It's happened again this season. I think it's an annual routine for me. The defenders, we have players like Justin, of course, who I don't want to keep in my team. I have him right now for the price rise, but I don't want to keep just because Pereira is going to come back at some point. And I look at Justin, I look at Castagne, and I see who's going to end up starting. They spend a lot of money on Castagne. He can play on the left and the right. So can Justin. But I feel like they might just go with Justin. With Castagne.
Justin doesn't look at that good defensively in general.
He doesn't.
And
he doesn't.
Look suspect, I think. But okay.
And that goes, yeah.
Maybe let's just go one by one. So, like, Ishan, any United assets for you?
Yeah, let me start by talking about my wild card. I wasn't even thinking about price rises, to be honest. After the Spurs and Southampton game, I didn't watch any of the matches. I just wanted to do nothing related to the Premier League. I didn't even watch Chelsea Liverpool, which is, I think, that was a big reaction from me. But by the time I had recovered, I think a lot of the price rises had already happened. Honestly, I just wanted to do the wild card to forget about the team I had, and I just wanted that excitement of choosing a new team again. And I know it will bite me in the ass, in my opinion, because of COVID or something else. Yeah, it is quite unpredictable this season, but I just wanted to freshen things up. I needed it. So that's why I did it. Do I have United assets right now? No, I don't. I agree with you, Bharat, that they will turn up at some point. When that will be, I don't know. Right now, I removed them because, yeah, they are facing Brighton, which looks good for them, but then they also have Spurs right after that. There are just so many options this season everywhere. So basically, I've removed Martial and Greenwood. But yeah, watch them score 4-5 goals again next week. But yeah, anyone who's listening in, has this ever happened to you? Have you ever transferred out 6 goals out of your team? If you have, give me some virtual hugs. Please tell me I'm not alone.
I feel like honestly a lot of people. I mean, I was actually on Twitter generally checking it out, and it seemed like a lot of people transferred out Son to Bruno. So that seemed pretty common. In fact, last season, the guy that ended up first, he did the same move, and he put up a tweet saying that he wanted to break his head on the wall. So I mean, I feel like that move, especially given that United did not start in the first game week of the season, were playing Crystal Palace. I think, yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it was a bad move, but I mean, that made sense. But I think Ishan's double transfer was one which was, I guess, a double whammy.
But I had to, right? I needed that extra 0.5 to get in Martial.
Anyhow, so okay, so let's also, we've discussed United assets. So personally, I think from my perspective, I have never gone a season where I have not held a United asset for a long period of time, but right now I do not hold a United asset. Basically too many options right now to ignore, and I just feel like, especially for Bruno, feel like it'll be easy for me to transfer out someone, say maybe a Sterling, say maybe a Son, to bring in Bruno a bit later on. But with the fixtures that a lot of teams have right now, with United's shaky start of the season, I tried really hard to fit Bruno into my team, could not. Martial was the one which, like, generally I have a particular affinity to, but again, like, just Dominic Calvert-Lewin, man, like, how has Carlo Ancelotti turned this guy who literally could never find the net, could only score like goals from his head? How has he turned him into fucking Filippo Inzaghi, man? Like, he's been scoring one-touch goals throughout the first 2 game weeks, and it's almost convinced me that he's turned a new leaf. Has that happened to you guys? Do you think Calvert-Lewin's Do you need to, do we think we need to look at Calvert-Lewin as a premium, good striker that can provide you goals, say at least 15 to 20 over a season?
So there are two things to consider when it comes to Calvert-Lewin, and he's one of those players who is just so bang average that just the look of him, I have never wanted him in my team. He's one of those players, Calvert-Lewin, Gabriel Jesus, like players like that. I just despise them. I just don't want them in my team. They score hat tricks. I'm just like, dude, it's an anomaly. I don't like these kind of players. Unfortunately, it's come to a point where he started at 7 million. He's at 7.2 already. Everton look great. They look solid defensively. They look great in midfield. Up front, we have Richarlison, who's a good player, but who's been really wasteful in the first couple of weeks.
He's
But
actually gone under the radar. I mean,
He has.
The games. If you generally look at the games, he's been really good. He's been having a lot of shots
Yeah.
as well. I actually feel a lot more comfortable owning him, but he's 1 million more and he's not scoring as much. Just doesn't.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think Abhinav, you mentioned on the group the other day that in his post-match interview, Calvert-Lewin has been talking about how Ancelotti's told him to stay in the box more. Forget about getting involved in play as much. Just trying to be a number 9. He's the kind of player that was never really a number 9 per se, at least, or maybe I haven't seen enough of him to make that judgment. But based on what I saw of him end of last season and what I'm seeing of him now, given the players that he has around him, that creative force of James with Richarlison supporting him, he has the luxury to stay in the box, get in behind a little bit, and a little more freedom to stay off the ball. And I think it's going to affect his goal scoring opportunities. He's going to get more chances. He's going to hopefully finish them. So for now, I do have him in my team against my my theory of just not liking him and not having him. I have him right now. And one of the reasons, again, I keep going back to that, was for the price rise capture is why I have him. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up holding on to him. He's one of those players at this point that will really hurt you to not have, because at some point in FPL, you have to consider the players that you want, but you also have to consider the players everyone has. Because if they don't do well, no harm. But if they do well, you're just screwed if you don't have them. So he's one of those players that at this point everyone has, and you have to have him.
The thing is also, Everton play like the style of football that just suits him. They play with a bunch of balls into the box. This guy's got a leap on him. Like, he's got that Cristiano jump.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, you think about it, dude. Like, Luca Dean's delivery is phenomenal. James, Richarlison, these are all creative guys. I was seriously considering bringing Calvert-Lewin in this week, because also he's so cheap for the amount of points that.
Exactly. That's what's painful, man. Like, people can have him. That's a problem. If he's cheap, people can have him in their teams. And then
And,
if
I mean,
you're
I would
owning like
take
Martial,
him-
which is what happened to me last week. Like, I had a premium strike force of Martial, Werner, and I don't know, man. I don't even know who my third striker. Wilson. Yeah, Wilson was not premium, but all these dudes combined cost me about what? 9.5, 9, and another 6.5. You do the math, it's about 25, 26. I paid
Expensive.
26, which is literally 5 to 6 more than most people were paying. And I got a net return of 6 points. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? What the fuck? I mean, so I
Do
guess.
you guys have any Chelsea players? Because you guys
Yeah, I was.
So in
you
wildcard, right?
had Havertz.
So the wildcard. So
Yes,
that's probably the next team. Great question. Maybe Bharat, you can get us started.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that too, because you mentioned Werner, and he's one of those players that most people started out the season with. I saw before game week 1 started, he had something like 48% ownership, which is just unheard of
How the
for a
hell is he
new
not falling?
transfer.
How the hell is
Sorry?
he not fallen in price? Like,
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I took him out, because I anticipated a price fall, so I don't have him at the moment. But the thing with Werner is he's just too good. Even against Liverpool, we had this one moment where he went past a couple of defenders, took a shot from outside the box, almost scored. He has that in his locker.
He won the penalty as well.
Yeah.
Right, he won the penalty as well. So I think he's one of those players that it's really hard to keep out. Given also now that Havertz is, he got up and running against Barnsley with that hat trick out of nowhere. Really, seeing he was so off the pace, and it is Barnsley at the end of the day, but it'll do him wonders for confidence. We have Pulisic coming back at some point really soon. We have Ziyech coming back. Do you really want to go in to your team without having a Chelsea asset, given their attacking prowess at the moment?
By the way, I would say West Brom are not looking much better than Barnsley right now.
Yeah, and I agree. That's one of the reasons why I really want to give Werner one last week at the very least. I mean, he's a new signing. He's adjusting to the Premier League. I remember in his post-match interview, he mentioned how he has never come across defenders like Brighton, like those giant, 6'4" defenders, and Dunk and Duffy and Webster, and he was just Brighton's left back in Eric Durm. I forgot what his name is. Burn. Dan Burn. He's like 6'4" for a left back. I mean, so even taller, maybe like 6'5". I mean, Warner was talking about that in his post match.
Hanging around with these
Lanty looks like he's just come out of like he's the newborn baby. If you see him running around on the pitch, he looks like a child. He legitimately looks like a child compared to the rest of that team. So again, keeping Werner in this week would be something that I'm seriously looking at. I don't have him as things stand just because I don't want a over 9 billion striker in my team. But I am seriously looking at if I like I spoke of before, if I make that change with taking out Bruno for Son and getting that extra 1.5 million, I can throw out that idiot Calvert-Lewin and bring in Werner. Trying to make some room for that.
Is Werner is Werner in only if you remove Calvert-Lewin?
Yeah, that's my toss up. That's the only thing I have to look at.
Okay, wait.
So my other forwards
maybe let's go. Vishant, do you have any Chelsea in your wildcard?
So I had removed Werner because I was anticipating a price drop, and I got this really annoying guy called Gabriel Jesus who got injured. I mean, Aguero's unfit, he scored a goal, he finally looked like he's going to get a goal per game or something, and he gets injured. Thank you. So I have Werner back now. But I am considering changing him to Jimenez and freeing up that 1 million. But then Werner's also playing West Brom. So I'm a bit confused there. Havertz, again, he gets a hat trick. Seems like a good time to bring him in, especially against West Brom. I have got James in my team. If I bring in Havertz, then James can go for him. So yeah, I'm still on the fence.
Actually, a quick aside on the Barnsley, I don't know whether you guys watched that, but I think one thing that I noticed in the game was how much Tammy was crucial to Havertz's game. So I think Tammy assisted all the 3 goals. So basically what was happening was Tammy sort of made a couple of dummies, he made one-touch passes, and Havertz was making runs into space. And he was already in the 10 role, but he was making runs into space, into the box. And
Havertz even said that he loved playing with Tammy.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing maybe to keep in mind. I don't know. So I think I mentioned this to Ishan at least earlier, that I was just talking about how Giroud, basically this is something I thought of after watching the Spurs game. So about how Mourinho's pretty much converted England's number 1 striker, Harry Kane, into literally an assist god, or basically making him make the other players look really good, right? And that's what he was really doing.
I mean, for one game, yeah.
Yeah, for one game. But that's essentially something I associate with one player and one player only, which is Oli Giroud. And that's literally Oli's role in the French team, Oli's role in Chelsea possibly. Like he brings in, he's like a fucking tree, dude, in the middle of the
Yeah.
forward line. He just brings players into play, and I think Tammy was very successful at doing that. So maybe Havertz has to have that sort of a striker, to play around. And maybe
Yeah,
that's
I'm not
something
sure. I'm not sure how good Werner's link-up play is. Like you said, seeing how Giroud, he's probably up there with the best in terms of a striker and link-up play. We saw that at Arsenal. We've seen that at Chelsea. Like you said, he makes players around him look better. I'm not sure if Werner has the ability to do that. Again, early days, but we can definitely hold. I wouldn't take Havertz in my team as an FPL manager at 8.5. He's in that weird kind of bracket where you have players at 7 who are worth taking, 7.5, and you have players at 10 and above who are worth taking. So he's in that weird 8 to 10 bracket, which puts you off a little bit. You're not sure what you're getting with him at this point. I'd hold off on Havertz personally. He is confident right now with that hat trick, and I think he's gonna be a major success. I love the guy, but I would hold off on Havertz personally.
Yeah, so
See, the thing
similarly,
is,
I've sort of gone for Werner right now, but
Yeah.
sorry to cut you off, Aman.
No,
But
go
I was just saying I've gone for Werner in my wildcard team right now, but I don't really want him. The reason I say that is I want to go cheap on strike, and I've already got Calvert-Lewin. I've also got another player who I'll talk about later, but basically I don't really want to be spending so much on my strike, and
Yeah.
immediately as soon as Pulisic is back at 8.3 possibly, dude, he's gonna be into my team immediately. I just think that West Bromwich for Chelsea is a great fixture. I can't go
Yeah.
without a Chelsea asset up top, so I have to go with one on this game. Sorry, Aman, what do you
I'm
say?
actually considering getting Havertz in. I know this is a weird flip because I didn't really rate him as a player at all. But I actually watched the Barnsley game, and yeah, they were playing Barnsley. But I was just so impressed with his composure on the ball. That guy, he was walking through the defense. His finish in his first goal was fantastic. He just passed it past the keeper. But also, I think his price has fallen after last week. I think he went
8.4.
down to 8.4.
Yeah.
And I have some money in the bank. So and also when you guys are talking about United assets, I have two of them. I might just drop Greenwood and get Havertz in, and that'll still leave me with some money. And eventually, I will get Pulisic in as well.
Wait, are you talking about
one
this
for
for this game? I mean, surely if you
But for
want to
this
get,
game week,
surely if you're getting a Chelsea asset, you should get them before a West Bromwich fixture, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm considering, getting Havertz in after this call. If his price has fallen, I'm getting him in straight away.
Wow.
That could be a great punt, no doubt. He's one to watch for and just keep an eye on. At this point, I can't afford him, and if I do make money for him, it would be sacrificing someone else that in defense that maybe someone like a Castagne or a Luca Dean, who both of which I have at the moment. But so it's something that I would. If I have a Werner in there, I'm not going to consider getting in a Havertz, but I think it could be a great punt if you have the money for it. If his price is dropped, and you have two United assets, one of whom you want to get rid of, no better option for you in that price bracket than Havertz at the moment.
Hey guys, Man City and Wolves. Again, two teams. I'm guessing a lot of us are considering in our wildcard. What do we make of the game, and what sort of players are we considering in our wildcard? Aman, maybe get started on the game. What did you make of the game?
So I was very impressed and surprised a little bit by City, by the way they started. Because Wolves are one of those teams City tend to choke against. They lost against them twice last season.
Yeah.
And Wolves just seem to have City's number. They know how to play against them. They know how to get a result. But this City was like the old City, where they just romped to victory. At least that's how it looked like in the first half. But Wolves, man, they're just such an impressive team.
Yeah.
And now they've gotten Semedo, who I don't know if you guys have watched a lot of him. I've obviously seen a lot of
Talk
cement.
to us about Semedo. Like, what do you think he's a good FPL asset? I've certainly considered him in my wildcard.
See, I don't know. I think for his price, he's a real option because he's only 5.5. He'll be playing right wing back. The thing is, he hasn't been playing wing back at Barca, so maybe adapting to that role might be a little hard. I think he could be an option as a third centre back. But I think
I don't think he'll be played as a third centre back though.
I don't think he will. I think if there's an injury, then he might be deployed in that role as a substitute or like as a backup. But I think what is impressive about him was his last season at Barca. He's matured into like a really he's matured as a player, which he was a bit green at the start when he joined Barcelona, and he even captained Barca a couple of times in the pre-season. So there's that to look out for, which all that shows me is that he is a player who is respected, for one. What that means for Wolves in the team is that he will be someone who is relied on by his teammates. Is he going to pull up Doherty's numbers? I doubt it. He's never had those numbers in his career, but he can be an option because he's 5.5, and more likely than not, I think Wolves will get clean sheets because that's what they do.
Okay, but just a side question: why didn't it work out at Barcelona for him? Was it because they were not using him in the right wing back position?
No, I think they sold him because they had to. They had to get wages off their books, and he was one.
Yeah, it's money. They got 40 million for him, which is decent, but they sold an asset. The only what's Barca's loss? I don't know if it's going to be Wolves' gain, or it will be Wolves' gain, but I don't know if it'll be an FPL manager's gain because he's 5.5. But is he going to get assists? Is he going to score? I don't know.
Bharat, what Wolves players are you considering for your wildcard? Obviously City as well, but maybe start with Wolves.
With Wolves, there's only one that I ever really consider every time, and that's Raul Jimenez. Everyone wants him. But unfortunately, he's in that price bracket for my strikers that I don't have room for. Someone that I'm considering, and I do have in my team at the moment, is Podence. You pronounce it Podence, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but I have him. His price went up as well. I got him at 5.5. He's gone up to 5.6. As that, he's playing that Diogo Jota role for Wolves at the moment. He's like a like-for-like replacement for Jota now that Jota's gone. And he's looking really good to me as an FPL manager at that price range, under 6 million for my midfield as my starting midfielder. If I have him, he's probably my fourth midfielder at this point because my fifth is always a budget that will never play. But having him is something that I'm seriously considering. I have him right now. I may keep him. A Wolves defender is always something to bank on. Usually it's a Doherty, or a Johnny, neither of whom are there anymore at this point, with Johnny being injured long term and Doherty gone to Spurs. Semedo at 5.5, I would still prefer a Castagne to him, given how Castagne started and Semedo hasn't played yet. Vinagre, that asshole, I had him. I'm just pissed off with him at this point. Even though he's gonna start, I just don't want him because he's messed up he's messed up my transfer plans. He's a big reason.
We knew it was
Too good to be true.
No, it was too good to be true, and it was definitely with all the transfer news, all the murmurs we were hearing about, Doherty going, that started this whole domino effect, right? And we knew that was never going to be a sealed spot, right? So we knew what we were getting. But that's the way I at least looked at my Vinagre. He was in my team, but I knew he was probably not nailed, right?
Yeah, he's one of those players that, again, when I was building out my team, I didn't want to take him just because I didn't want to take players who I anticipate making transfers for in the near future. There was Justin's one of the reasons I didn't take for that reason, because I knew Pereira would be coming back at the end of September, early October. Unfortunately, that's bitten me in the ass because Justin's had 2 solid game weeks. He may even start after Pereira's back. We don't know how that's going to be. Pereira's going to take some time to, gain some match fitness. And Vinagre, I took him just because at 4.5, a Wolves fullback, you have to have him. Unfortunately, I took him out already. I don't know if I'm going to take him back right now. I'm going to assess the extent of the injury that.
So what I've heard is he's probably starting this week, but
Yeah,
it's
beyond
like
that.
it's probably Markal back beyond that. So
Yeah.
it's just a very short term thing, if anything.
So I don't think I'm going to take him back in. I don't want any centre backs in my defense, especially with Bolly, Cody, and Sais. None of them are really FPL assisters or goal scorers for centre backs. You have the Van Dijks in the centre back positions who do get, and the Brighton defenders with Duffy and Dunk and Webster who do are threats from set pieces. I don't think any of these three are particularly going to get you that or offer something different. So I'm going to stay away from them. The only Wolves player that I'm seriously considering right now is Podence and Jimenez. If I can make room for Jimenez, he's one of those perennial consistent 180 point a season players, 6 points every week, 6 to 8 on a good day. He's not going to get you 17. He's not going to get you a hat trick. He's not going to get you red cards. So he's not going to be on either extremes, but he's going to be that consistent play you can bank on. At 7 million, no doubt he's in my team. At 8.5, I'm considering keeping him out.
Sean, Wolves players?
So right now I have Sais and Odins. Sais because I definitely wanted a Wolves defender and he looks like the best option there after Vinagre. As in, I had Vinagre and then I took him out later. Podence looks too good at 5.5. He looks undroppable at that money. And also, I basically wanted to let go of Souček. I had Bissouma too. He was a dud in my midfield, and Souček was supposed to be an enabler. And he looks like a dud.
No, he doesn't, to be honest.
Playing for a dud called David Moyes.
He looks like the new Fellaini. That's what I'd
Oh,
say.
really? Yeah, okay, but
Abhinav, you're playing your mind games here.
but
Jahan Baksh.
I Souček wasn't doing my team any good, so I wanted to upgrade him, and I took Podence. Samido coming in means Adama will play up front. So how much will that affect Podence's influence? We're yet to find out, but right now Podence looks good. Up top, as I said before, I'm considering changing Werner to Jimenez. I've also been considering letting go of my bench striker for Jimenez and converting one of my mids into bench fodder. So that's a big decision, going with 5 mids and 2 strikers versus 4 mids and 3 strikers. I might do that. But yeah, Jimenez, I agree with Bharat there. He's a 7-8 pointer every game, and Wolves have some great fixtures lined up.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Wolves have such a good run of fixtures now.
Yeah.
And even, Jimenez, he scored in the first 2 games again in their tough fixtures against Sheffield and City.
Yeah, very true.
And we know everything moves through him. He's their outlet. He's. It's such a nightmare to try and figure out who should I get in.
It's too many options this
Dude,
season.
so weirdly enough, Jimenez was the first person I brought in on the wild card. I just felt that I looked through the fixture list on Wolves' current fixture list. I was like, am I really gonna feel happy not having Jimenez through all of these fixtures? And I couldn't find a reason not to have him. I also felt that when I was earlier, pre-season, looking at my team, I was considering an early wildcard at that time, and I saw the fixture turn. Basically, the only reason I didn't have Wolves players in my team early on was for the first 2 fixtures, which is supposedly tough, which is Sheffield and City. Jimenez still did well in both fixtures, right? Might as well just have had him.
Yeah, watch him blank this week.
Which just makes me feel like I'm okay with him blanking, but I feel like more often than not, he's not going to blank. He's the central point, he's the focal point of that attack. Wolves have become more attacking. So I actually heard this quote from Nuno. So Nuno basically, his principle with respect to football is that the team must evolve every season. So they must evolve and become one level higher. So this season, I think he wants them to evolve and become a little more attacking. So they've always been defensively secure. If you look at the play in their first 2 games as well, you can see that they're a little more expansive, a little more aggressive early on. Wolves last season, especially post restart, were a team that were a second half team. They always kept a clean sheet first half, didn't do much, and then second half, you always had Adama assist, Jimenez goal. Adama assist, Jimenez goal. This season, I think they've been making a lot more moves early on. So that's interesting. Also, interesting, quick aside, I noticed none of us spoke of Chelsea's defensive assets. Just wanted to ask you, are you actually considering some of them? There's some interesting ones, I'll just name a few. There's Chilwell, there's James, Reece James that is, and there's too many James right now in the game, man. And there's also the new keeper who's replacing Kepa. So just wanted to ask you guys about that as well.
I have James.
Mocha.
I've brought in Reece James against especially West Brom to start with, but even otherwise, he looks pretty good. I know we've been discussing Azpilicueta taking his spot eventually, but right now at 5, his price has gone up to 5.1. He looks pretty solid. He looks really confident and he attacks a lot.
So wait, at 5.5, Bharat, I'll ask you this question because you made this comment. You said that I would prefer Castagna to Semedo at 5.5. If I put in a fit Ben Chilwell in a Chelsea defense at 5.5, what do you think? Would you consider him over a Castagna or a Semedo, and why or why not?
I would consider Ben Chilwell mainly because Ben Chilwell's attacking output has been great. Last season he was one to have. I remember that this one game where he got some 21 points and he was on my bench that week. And ever since then, I've always had an eye on him. But the thing with Chelsea is, I feel like there's so much change in that team at this point. I would consider Chilwell over Castagne, but I would consider. I'd look at fixtures when I make that decision. I'd also look at the Chelsea defense for a few weeks. I want to see how things develop when Mendy comes in. When we don't know at the moment, Christensen is not going to start now, so they're going to bring in Azpilicueta maybe at centre back at this point, and then play with Rudiger and Zuma, whoever, and then they have Reece James on the right. So I want to wait and see what develops with Chelsea. Marcos Alonso is still playing as well. He used to be an FPL legend 3 years ago. His attacking output was insane, and now he's just not going to be starting soon. So Chelsea have a few defensive options, but I do want to wait and see how their defense looks. Because on paper it looks great. On paper their attack looks great. But I do want to wait and see. Maybe game week 7 or 8, I'll make that decision. For now, I'm going to hold on to Castagne and wait. Just give Chilwell maybe 3 or 4 weeks to get up to speed.
So Aman, we've been team Reece James over Chilwell despite all the transfer rumors and despite him actually getting into the team. We still feel. Do you still think he's going to start? Do you think he can hold on the spot over Azpilicueta?
I think Lampard loves James. We saw it last season. James is I think against Barnsley, or maybe this was maybe against Chelsea. Against Liverpool. Someone came in, and I think James was moved to play CDM as well. So I think his versatility
might be after the red card.
Yeah, could be. But I think because he's so versatile, Lampard rates him and wants to rely on him. And I think also Lampard is looking for these players who have character to them. So I think if we're looking at an option in centre back, I don't know what Thiago Silva's price is, but I think if he's a 5.5 and Chelsea's clean sheets pick up, I think he's an option to look at. But if I was to choose between Chilwell and James, I'm just going to go for James because I want to see, or if I have to choose between Chilwell and Castagna, I'll go for Castagna because Castagna's just started really well. I want to see how well Chilwell starts. He picked up an assist against Barnsley, but Chelsea are just too unpredictable at the back. And if I
Yeah.
want to choose one player, it has to be James. That goal itself is too good.
So, this is a question to all the wildcarders. Goalkeeper. So, this is the only goalkeepers that I've been considering. I've been considering Emi Martinez from Aston Villa. I've been considering Mendy from Chelsea after he joined the game 5. At 4.5, if I was to have a rotation, which is not, I don't tend to rotate to 4.5s, but if I was to, I'd probably consider Ryan as well in that category. Any thoughts on this? Who've been your two goalkeepers at the moment?
I've looked at three of those. I've looked at only three keepers so far, and those are the three that I'm probably going to be sticking to. It's two of those you mentioned, Matt Ryan and Emi Martinez, and then McCarthy from Southampton is also these three. I do like to have a set and forget keeper, someone like a Nick Pope last year, who you have him in, you hit the lottery, you hit the jackpot. You never need to take him out, whether he's playing City away or he's playing West Brom at home. It doesn't matter. He'll get you the saves in the big games, he'll get you the clean sheets in the small games. But none of these three keepers that we mentioned do that. Maybe Ryan to some extent does get you a lot of saves. He has over the years as well.
Martinez.
But I'm only looking.
Martinez as well, right?
Martinez would. I know he saved a penalty in his first game, and a lot of people are jumping the bandwagon with him, just like getting him in. But he is one to look out for, though, because Aston Villa as a team are going to face a lot of shots on target, and they have. I'm guessing he's going to be their starting goalkeeper. They have Tom Heaton in their ranks. I'm not sure if there's going to be any rotation policy between them, but they signed him for a heavy sum, so I feel like he's going to start for them. For now, my two options are Martinez and Matt Ryan. And I think that's what I'm going to stick with, at least in the short term. I do want to have those two 4.5 keepers, especially if I'm looking at these two bottom half teams. Fixtures come into play week in, week out. To be honest, like an idiot, I played McCarthy over Ryan this week. Another thing that went wrong in game week 2. Ryan got a clean sheet and McCarthy, I thought, at home to Spurs looking absolute trash against in that first game against Everton. I thought, it's going to be a good decision to play McCarthy. He got a 0.
You didn't choose Ryan against Newcastle. I think that's one of the major reasons why I don't like having two rotational.
I mean, Brighton away to Newcastle. Newcastle looked good in game week 1 with Wilson looking good, with playing 2 up top with Andy Carroll as well. I thought no chance of a clean sheet there. But Newcastle, like Brighton, like even Spurs, for instance, are one of those hot or cold teams. You can't really rely on them. And I'm not looking to rely on a team like Newcastle or Brighton anyway. But that's why I like that rotational option with those keepers. A 4.5 set and forget, like Nick Pope, is too good to be true last year. It's not going to happen again this year. Maybe Emi Martinez could be that. You never know. But I'm going to start out with 2 4.5s for sure.
Ishan?
But Abhinav.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Sorry, Ishan, go ahead.
I've had a 4.5 and a 4 keeper from the start. Again, Emi Martinez and Ryan look like the best options. Ryan has been getting save points throughout his fantasy Premier League life, so he looks good. But then, they're playing United and they attack a lot overall. So I've picked Emi Martinez.
But that's
for
one
now.
game. I mean.
Yeah, it is one game, but.
You're looking at not
Like
looking at
overall,
transferring your keeper out.
if I'm looking at who's giving me more clean sheets, I don't know. I'm just leaning towards Emi Martinez at this point.
Aman, what are you saying?
I was going to ask you, who have you brought in over on your team? Because you haven't really even talked about.
Maybe we can just go and sort of talk about our teams now. I think overall what we've been thinking about. So I think we've spoken about a lot of players. I think the only team we've not mentioned yet is City, which is probably a good idea because City form a large part of my wildcard team. So I've gone big on City in my wildcard team, at least as of now. I've picked De Bruyne, I've picked Sterling, I've picked Phil Foden. So I've gone triple
Interesting.
City midfield. I look at I looked at City against Wolves, and I was just like, this is a team that is a genuine title contender. Probably, I would put them ahead of Liverpool as well. They just disposed of a good-looking Wolves side like they were nothing. De Bruyne was so comfortable in that number 10 role in the Silva role. Foden, I know he's not going to start. This is the way I sort of thought about Foden. I thought that he's probably going to start 20 games this season. He's probably going to come off the bench in another 10. And in half of these games, he's probably going to give you some returns. And at 6.5, honestly, that's enough for me. Given that he gets points. I mean, I see that a 150 point season for a 6.5 is an amazing season for a 6.5 player, right? So the three City form a huge part of my wildcard team. Another locked player in my wildcard team from the very start was Raul Jimenez, and as I mentioned, right, I just see him as having a really green patch of fixtures. I see Wolves being very attacking, so he's locked in. The next player who's locked into my wildcard team is Lamptey. Actually, I really loved Lamptey in the games that he's played till now. I feel like at 4.5, he almost looks to be. He looked to me like Brighton's main creative asset. I felt that I just enjoyed watching him play. He was creating a lot, and he's not left my team since. Then come, I guess, the more doubtful choices, right? And so the first doubt I had was which asset to pick in Everton. I can't go. I'm not convinced on Everton to go doubling up on Everton. So probably, I'll probably go with Dominic Calvert-Lewin just because I feel he's 0.3 cheaper, probably going to be scoring more goals. I like the goal scorer. I like picking the goal scorer as an FPL asset rather than the creator. So James Rodriguez might be the player I would enjoy watching more, but DCL definitely might be in my team come the deadline. And the next player probably, I guess next team would be Liverpool, and I'm probably going to pick one out of Trent and Robbo, not both. I had both of them earlier, but I feel like there's too many good options in defense now. So I'm probably going to pick Robbo actually. I actually like Robbo a lot more, and that's a big decision, and I think that's one that I may end up doing. But at 0.5 cheaper, I just like Robbo, how he's attacking. I know that this is probably going to come bite me, which is I've tried drafts that I've tried to fit both of them in, because it's such a pain, right? Because I like Robbo, but just not having Trent exactly the way Bharat mentioned, it just probably comes and bites you in the back eventually. So I'm going to try and fit him in, but the compromise there is Sterling, obviously. So if I want to have Sterling in my team, and I want to have Salah, and I want to have KDB, then I can't have both Trent and Robbo. So yeah, I think currently my team is three of these guys. Foden's in midfield. That's my midfield. Two strikers.
So you've gone like ultra heavy in the mid.
I've gone ultra heavy mid. Yeah, I've gone ultra heavy mid. I've got Salah, Sterling, KDB, Foden.
That's a ridiculous midfield.
Foden's.
Yeah.
Insane.
And two Calvert-Lewin and Jimenez up top. And if I go with this sort of team, it just about gives me enough to make those defensive picks I want. So I've picked Lamptey, I've picked James from Chelsea. I was actually interested in Chelsea's keeper, but then I thought if their defense is better, then might make James a better pick as well. So brought in James. Currently I have Saiz, not convinced. I have a 4.0 defender as well. And yeah, that last spot is currently going to Robbo.
So the thing with Robbo is, and the only difference that I see between Trent and Robertson FPL wise is that Trent takes free kicks, right? Robertson and Trent both take the corners. That's big for Liverpool because they have that Van Dijk in the middle who does get you those 5 or 6 goals a season from those corners and set pieces.
Yeah.
So left side of set pieces, you see Robertson taking them, and right side set pieces, you see Trent taking them. It's that free kick differential that is just a big thing for me for keeping Trent in and worth that extra 0.5 million. That's one of the reasons I've stuck with Trent, but it's very, very, very tempting to take him out. I just don't like having, and logically speaking, if you look at it, Trent and Robertson are going to get you 200 points, no doubt, over the course of the season, which a similar priced midfielder or a striker is not going to get you. But still, seeing that heavy price tag in your midfield with those amazing options up front, you always are so tempted to remove and make some room for that. But I'm just gonna stick with my gut and stick with Trent or Robertson. Either way, I think there's going to be maybe a maximum of 20 points, 15 to 20 points over the course of the season. That's going to be a difference between them. So yeah, I don't think that Robertson is a bad choice for sure.
I think it should be mentioned that obviously this isn't my locked wildcard team, so I should kind of mention the doubts that I have and the changes that I might make. So the two players that are really playing in my head, three players I would say that are really playing in my head right now. I'll just mention them in no order of priority. But Trent, there's Heung-min Son, and there is Timo Werner. I think these are the three players. And the fall guy for all three of these players, at least in terms of price, will be Sterling. So it's really a question of how much, because I can probably have two of these guys, right? If I bring out Sterling, I can probably include two of these guys in my team. So that's really where the doubt lies. And the only major decision I've made, which I'm not going back on, is to look at United assets after they settle. So I'm okay with not jumping on them immediately right now. Maybe Sean, you can go with your wildcard team now.
Right. So I always do this. I have been doing this always, where I have the lowest priced, one of the lowest priced forwards, one of the lowest priced mids, and one of the lowest priced defenders to conserve funds always, and a 4 million keeper always. But this season I really feel like I need more balance, because I was trying to fit in 2 top strikers and 2 top midfielders. I had brought in, apart from my dud in the midfield, I had brought in Souček, a 5 million enabler that didn't really work for me. I also picked Ferguson over Mitchell, because I thought Mitchell will lose his spot after a few game weeks after Van Aanholt comes back. Until then, I just won't play Ferguson. But these decisions weren't working out for me. And seeing so many options available this season, I went for more balance in my team. So right now I have in my midfield I have 5 midfielders who can get me points. I have Podence, I have KDB, Aubameyang went for KDB. I've kept Salah, he looks good. I picked Foden because at 6.5 he can be quite the wild card player, and not many people have him. His ownership percentage is quite low. And my 5th mid is James right now. I had picked Jesus. City looked really good, so I went for the triple up there, but then the idiot got injured. So I have Werner now. Of course, I picked Calvert-Lewin. My 3rd striker is Brewster, but as I mentioned earlier, I might switch Werner for Jimenez. I might switch out Brewster and get Jimenez and let go of one of my midfielders. At the back, I had Trent, and everyone else was a 4.5 defender. But I switched it up completely. I took Robbo because I thought that 10 to 20 point difference between them, maybe I can let that go and spend that extra 0.5 million. But then our conversations right now are really about that. So again, I'm thinking about Trent again. Man, I hate this. But for the other spots, I have both Castagne and Justin, because Castagne just looks like the best fullback apart from Trent and Robbo, he looks like the best fullback in the league right now. He's so fluid in the attack, um, and both of their prices they were going to go up, so I kept both of them.
But wait, are they going to be there in your final team?
I think I'm going to remove one of them. It's no point keeping two Leicester defenders, and I have Size and Reece James. That's my team.
Gabriel Jesus is one of those players that even if I have him in my team, I just don't want him to be happy. You know, he's that kind of player that when he scores goals and he gets happy, it annoys me whether or not I have him. I just don't want him anywhere near my team ever. And especially, I love Aguero. I just love Aguero too much. When he comes back, I'm always gonna have some. I know, Abhinav, you sent this meme a few days ago or a few weeks ago, where always have some money for Aguero in the bank in case he's on fire. And that's something that FPL wise, we've learned this in the last decade or so. You need to have Aguero in your team against those bottom half teams when they're playing at the Etihad. He's going to get you.
He's such a
goals.
comfortable, captainable option, right? You know
Yes.
he's going to score.
Except when you triple captain him, because that's when he gets injured.
Dude, Ishan just doesn't know how to use Kun, man.
Come on. He is a bit streaky. That's undeniable. He has his phases.
He does.
But his streaks are predictable. That's what I'd say. Like, you know when
Yeah.
he's in touch.
Yeah. Unlike Sterling.
Yeah. But another sort of, I think, enablers, right? Enablers before we go into. So I heard Ishan mentioning Brewster, and I just thought. So in case I do remove Sterling, the guy I'm going to bring in for him is probably going to be a budget enabler in the form of Berkey from Sheffield.
Sheffield, I have him.
At 4.5. I'll just bring him in and then comfortably change my budget striker to who's currently a Brewster to say a Werner, and move probably one of my defenders up to Trent. That's one possible change. Or I remove Sterling for Son and just make one of the two changes.
So,
Bharat,
what's your
sorry,
team
go ahead.
looking like?
So my team at the moment is, I wanted to, like you said, I also always go with 3 budget options on my bench for strikers, midfielders, and defenders, and then heavy on the other players. I wanted some balance in my team. I started out similar to you with a 7.5 Trent and 4.5 defenders, but I changed that up right now. Starting from the back, we spoke about my keepers. It's Emi Martinez and Matt Ryan, 2 4.5 keepers I want to rotate between. In my defense, I have Trent. I'm sticking with him for now, just because of the ownership that he has across FPL. Then I have Castagne and Luca Dean. Castagne, I was pretty set on. I saw a bit of Atalanta play last season. In that system, he was fantastic as a FPL asset. Defensively, still suspect. We don't know over the course of the season if he's going to be great defensively, but for an FPL asset, he's and also the way Leicester play, I really wanted him. Luca Dean, perennial FPL point getter. He is great, like Aman mentioned earlier, with his delivery into the box is amazing. He takes corners, he takes free kicks, so he's indirect free kicks. So he's a good asset, and with the attacking options Everton have now, he's definitely one to keep an eye on. He is an expensive defender at 6.1, so it's something that he's one of those doubtful picks for me right now. I have him for now, but I'm not sure if I'm going to end up keeping him. But he's something I'm seriously considering. And my other 2 defenders are Mitchell. I've had him start at 4.0. He is one of those that may have to be shipped out once Van Aanholt comes back, once all of the Palace defenders are fit. But I have him for now, and
he looks good.
I'm going to keep him. He looks good at 4.0, not really, someone that I'd have to worry about too much. And then my 5th defender is, I was seriously considering someone like a Fernandinho, because he is going to start in the midfield for City more often than not, and he's listed as defender. At 5.5, I'm not sure if I want him, because he's not going to get you any attacking returns, whether he's playing in the midfield or in the defense.
Do you think he's going to start every game firstly?
Yeah, that's another question mark. He's someone that I had in my team because for some reason, and I was wrong about that, but I predicted a price rise seeing how he plays in midfield and is listed as a defender. At 4.5 or 5, I would have seriously considered him. At 5.5, he's a bit outside of my price range. And also, like you said, he's probably not going to start, but I
No, but
did
that's a
think
good
about
shout
him.
actually. But I mean, I think that's a very good shout because I think it's one that not a lot of people are talking about right now. But my
Yeah.
only question is he currently? I remember he's now been named city captain. So
Yeah.
does that mean
So, yeah,
he starts?
It could be. I mean, we have captains like Aspilicueta not going to be playing too often. We have Seamus Coleman for Everton not probably going to be playing as much. If Everton do end up signing a right back, which they're in the market for.
Oh, is it?
They were. I read that they were in the market for some attacking right back. I can't remember now, but Ancelotti is looking for a right back.
They had Sidibe last season, right?
Yeah, they had Sidibe last season, exactly. So I'm not sure if he's a big fan of Coleman because Sidibe and Coleman rotated. They started like 15, 18 games each.
But Ancelotti said he was very impressed with Kenny after he returned from Schalke.
Right.
I think Kenny is a great option if he becomes a starter.
What is he, 4.5?
Very cheap, yeah. I think
Yeah.
4.5 or 5.
But he's not started yet.
No, he started the League Cup games and he was decent in those. But I think he's going for Coleman because he's captain. You can trust him.
Yeah.
He's such a good player, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely someone to look out for. I didn't really consider him, but that's a great shout out. My fifth defender right now is Lamptey. At 4.5, he looked great. I never really looked at him until United played Brighton at the Amex last season after the restart. I had no idea who he was before that game. He looked really good in that game, despite Brighton getting absolutely thumped. He looked really good in that game. He's looked good since the start of the season. Like Abhinav mentioned, attacking a lot of Brighton's attacking play comes through him, and at right back, it's surprising, but he's someone that I do think I will keep. In my midfield, I have the big three, the big two, I guess, in Salah and De Bruyne are no-brainers. Have to keep them in there. Fixture proof, ownership, everyone has them. They don't do well, doesn't matter. They do well, you're screwed if you don't have them. I have Podence, like we talked about, and then I also have Son right now, as things stand. Considering upgrading him to Bruno, not really sure if I'm going to do that, but he's a question mark in my team. Then I have Oliver Burke from Sheffield, the 4.5, number 9. And midfield, I don't think he's going to be starting week in, week out. Sheffield have too many average strikers. So, we may see that being rotated, but it doesn't really matter to me. He's never going to play in my team.
The manager gave him some good comments after the match, so that's another reason.
That's promising, yeah. That's promising to keep him in there. And again, at 4.5 is my fifth midfielder. I doubt I'll start him. And then my strikers are Calvert-Lewin, I hate him, but I have him. And then Mitrovic, sticking with him. My third budget striker at 4.5 doesn't really matter. There's a lot of options. There's Brewster, there's Davis from Aston Villa, but I have him. But the big thing is that after having this team on paper, I have 3.1 in the bank right now.
Wait, so this is a 4-4-2, right? Currently?
Currently it's a 4-4-2. With Mitchell, Burke, and Davis on the bench. And I like the look of it, but my bench is really weak as things stand. So I do have 3.1 million in the bank. If I decide to upgrade on to Bruno, it still leaves me 1.6. So I'm considering whether I want to bring in maybe a better enabler than Burke, whether I want to bring in someone up front at 6.5 back in afford Callum Wilson, have three of those mid-level strikers, mid-price level strikers in Mitrovic, Calvert-Lewin, and Wilson. So I do have that money in the bank right now, or whether I just want to keep Son in at home to Newcastle. Wait to see how United do against in their game this week and against Brighton. The thing with United is if Bruno plays well, odds are United are going to play well because a lot of what they do comes through him. So I might just hold off on Bruno for this week. I do definitely want a United asset this week, so I'm considering Greenwood or Bruno. It's going to be one or the other. And either Podence or Fernandez are going to have to step out in that. Or Son are going to have to step out in that case. But we'll see. So those are my question marks right now. But the crux, the core of my team remains the same with Trent, Castagne, Salah, De Bruyne, Mitrovic, Calvert-Lewin, Ryan, Martinez. Those 8 or 9 players are going to stay for sure.
Wait, so your other three midfielders currently, other two starting midfielders currently are Podence and James Rodriguez?
So it's Podence, Son, De Bruyne, Salah, and then Burke is the enabler.
Pretty strong midfield again. So
Yeah.
even though you have money in the bank, that's a really strong midfield because Son's in form, Salah
Yeah.
and De Bruyne, and Podence looks pretty decent as well. So that's pretty good actually. I think that's a really, I would say, well balanced squad. Maybe a little light up top, right? That's probably
Little
the
right
only
up top.
comment.
And that's where that 3.1 million that I have in the bank might be invested. If I want to bring in a Werner, invest all of that 3.1 and bring in Werner instead of Mitrovic. That's an option too. Or maybe downgrade Luca Dean to a 4.5 defender in Rob Holding, for example, who's going to be starting Arsenal. If they, I never liked their defending, but if he's going to be starting, he's a decent option to consider. And then we have up front, we have if I remove Davis instead at 4.5 and bring in Werner, I can get that extra 2 million plus 3.1 that I have in the bank to get Werner. It's something I'm looking at. So it's definitely, and another 4.5 enabler that as up front that I recently considered after City's game in the Carabao Cup is Liam Delap.
Oh, Delap, sorry.
Delap's son. He's a 4.5. City have only one striker fit right now in Jesus, who also I think he picked up a knock, did he, in the Carabao Cup. So you never know. They play Sterling through the middle most likely if that happens with Aguero and Jesus out. But if Liam Delap gets in even like 20 minutes with the players around him like De Bruyne and Foden and Mahrez and Sterling, I wouldn't be surprised he gets you 4 or 5 points off the bench. So he's one enabler to consider, but. I don't know if you want to waste your City asset on a player like that, because if you're tripling down on them, if Liam Delap is your third asset, it's a bit questionable.
Actually, I had a question to you. So you seem pretty set on Mitrovic, not a player I've considered because I'm not a fan of Fulham. And secondly, my other reasoning was that at that price point, we have now another player, not that price point, actually cheaper. We have Bamford, and a lot of people have brought in Bamford. Your thoughts on why you've gone with Mitrovic over Bamford?
So Mitrovic, for me, Fulham are going down. I see Fulham as a pendulum team. Come up, go down every season. That's where from similar to them. Mitrovic for me is Premier League proven. The last time he was in the Premier League for Fulham, he scored I think 15 goals or so. He is one of those traditional number 9s. I like the look of him. I like his attitude just because he has that flair in him. If that he's kind of an asshole like on the pitch. I like that about him for my FPL team. He'll get you those goals. Fulham are one of those teams that will go down for sure, but Mitrovic is still going to get you 15 goals at the very least. I predict him to get maybe 12 to 15. So as my third striker, he's nailed in, but currently I have him as my second striker, which is a big call. I agree. It's a risk, but I think he's just, when you compare him to Bamford, Leeds do have Rodrigo in their ranks. I'm not sure how often Bamford may play as the lone striker, and Bamford is also tends to play out wide as well. So I'm not sure if I want to remove Mitrovic or Bamford at the moment. But again, they're both ones to watch. If I see Bamford doing a lot better, since they're in a similar price bracket, I think it will be easy to remove Mitrovic and bring in Bamford at a later point. But for now, I'm going to stick with Mitrovic.
Mitrovic is my Calvert-Lewin. I'm never getting him. I don't care how well he does. I just can't stand the guy. And same goes with Zaha. Zaha
Dude,
is
I
never
agree
in.
with you 100%. Aman.
Man, I've been looking at Zaha, to be honest.
Yeah, he's
You
one we
love
haven't
Zaha.
spoken about.
Guys, actually, do you mind if I open up my team? Because I genuinely think I overshot my price. 100. I think I went to 100, but
Yeah, but
anyway.
I was thinking how you have Werner and
No, I didn't say Werner in my team. I said Werner if I remove Sterling.
I mean Jimenez, Calvert-Lewin, Sterling, KDB,
Foden.
Foden, and
Foden's-
Trent and Robo.
No, I didn't say Trent and Robbo in that.
No, he doesn't have Trent.
I said
Only
no Trent in
Robbo.
that, only Robbo in that team. But even with Robbo, I feel like I overshot. Cool, Bharat. So maybe quickly run us through your team position by position.
So my team, real quick, goalkeepers. We talked about Emi Martinez, Matt Ryan, 4.5 options to rotate. Pretty much nailed in. Not going to change that. Our defense, I have Trent. Have to keep him because of the ownership across FPL. I have Lamptey in there at 4.5, a great attacking option for Brighton. A lot of what, like you mentioned, Abhinav, a lot of their attack goes through him. Mitchell at 4.0 for Palace. He's not going to be nailed on starter for them going forward, but at 4.0 as my budget defender on my bench, no problem. And then Luca Dean and Castagne, two mid-level defender options. Well, probably on the expensive side, but I'm going to keep in Castagne. Luca Dean is one to look out for. May downgrade, upgrade my attacking options. My midfield. KDB, Salah, no questions there. Have to have them. I have Son in for now, and I have Podence in there as well. And then my enabler is Berg from Sheffield. That guy, I don't see him starting. I know you mentioned that Chris Wilder spoke highly of him post match, so good to know. I'll keep him in there as my third sub. I'm not really gonna worry about him too much. I may upgrade Son to Bruno, or upgrade Podence to Greenwood, depending on my last minute 3-5 minute deadline instinct. And then finally my attack, Mitrovic and Calvert-Lewin up front. Had to have DLC just because the form, Everton playing so well. Mitrovic, just because Fulham, everything that attacking wise goes through him. He's going to get you those goals. He's going to get you those penalties. He's going to get you returns over the course of the season. Hopefully 12 to 15 goals. Even though Fulham are going to probably go down. And then my budget striking option. Right now it's Davis. It might be Liam Delap, depending on whether I want 3 City assets and I have room for Delap. I may not keep him just because if I want to at some point upgrade 3 City assets, I'll have to use -4 to remove Liam Delap. But seeing how Jesus is injured, Aguero's injured, he might be a wild card, third pick, third striker. Yeah, that's my team for now.
Great. So
And I have 3.1 million in the bank.
3.1.
So-
I was just gonna say. So basically, that 3.1 could mean that you could potentially get Bruno and still have money in the bank, right?
And it could also mean I downgrade Luca Dean to a 4.0, 4.5 defender, have 5 million in my bank, and upgrade my enabler striker to Werner
Oh, right,
for West
Werner as
Brom.
well.
So that's something I'm seriously considering right now.
That's a good one. So at least for me, I'm currently on a 4-4-2 with 3 budget options on the bench: 4.5, 4.5, and 4.0. But again, as Bharat mentioned, lots of last-minute instinct, so it's not really locked in, so to speak. But my current goalkeeper is Emi Martinez, and I've got Jed Steer, I think, as my bench keeper right now. In defense, I've gone with Robbo over Trent. Still not absolutely certain on that decision. I have 0.8 in the bank still, so could potentially convert him to Trent as well. I have Saiz. I have Saiz from Wolves. I have James from Chelsea. Saiz currently just seems like the nailed Wolves option in a Wolves defense that I really like, with a really good bunch of fixtures. James is, I love James. I just think, I really think he's going to have a breakout season this year. Lamptey, as I've already told you, he's not leaving my team. Unless he's getting injured long term, he's not leaving my team this season. Just really think at 4.5 you can't get any better than this kind of attacking potential from a defender. In midfield, I have three real premiums. I have Salah, De Bruyne, and Sterling, and I feel like that combination hopefully is my differential in my team. I think that City look explosive this season. I think I'm expecting a bunch of fixtures where they throttle like their opposition, and I feel like De Bruyne and Sterling will be in the middle while they're doing all of this. One potential option I have considered is downgrading Sterling to Foden, or basically downgrading Sterling to Son. Both decisions I'll probably take closer to closer to the deadline tomorrow. My fourth starting midfielder is Podence from Wolves. I think he's unless they sign another winger, I think he's nailed that spot, and he's going to be playing the Jota role as Bharat mentioned. Strikers, I've gone boring. I've gone. I mean, I would say the trustworthy Jimenez, and I think that it's crazy that this season even Jimenez is a differential because I don't see him in a lot of teams. But I feel like he's a trustworthy Premier League proven striker who's got a beautiful set of fixtures coming up. And I don't really particularly like this player, but I just see him in a lot of teams, and I feel like Everton have turned out to be a lot better this season. And I think he's under the guidance of a very good manager who's going to probably convert him into a top goal scoring striker, and that's Calvert Lewin. So he's in my team as well. But yeah, have 0.8 in the bank, and I'm considering possibly downgrading Sterling to either Son or Foden, and that would give me enough funds to possibly upgrade my budget striker to Werner, most probably. Sean, your team?
Emi Martinez and Steer at the back. Might just change out Emi to Ryan in the last minute, maybe. In defense, I switched Trent and got me Robo to save that, use that 0.5 in other places. I let go of my non-playing defender Ferguson for a 4.5, and I upgraded my defense. I have Saiz, Reece James, both Castagne and Justin, because I was anticipating a price rise for both of them. I will let go of one of them for someone else. In midfield, I have Salah and KDB obviously, and I have Foden and James. Up top, I have Calvert Lewin. I had Jesus until he got injured, so it's back to Werner. My third striker is Brewster for now, so a big decision I'm going to make by the deadline is, do I want to convert Brewster into a Jimenez and have three goal scorers up top and let go of one of my midfielders? That could be a differential move from me.
I think staying with me has made him consider Jimenez. He was never considering Jimenez.
Yeah, Abhinav waxes lyrical about Jimenez every day. No, of course we know how good Jimenez is. It's just he's a one goal a game guy. He's not a hat trick guy. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
Aman, quickly run us through your team, and maybe we can also quickly talk about captains for this game week, which is another thing we've not mentioned.
So a lot of overlaps. Salah, De Bruyne, Son, midfield. I have Greenwood as of now and Souček. I think I'm gonna take Greenwood out for Havertz just so I can get like a differential option. Plus Chelsea playing West Brom. And then I have Martial up top, which I'm obviously going to stick with. So again, great differential option. I'm hoping United come good. Yeah. Defense, Mitchell, Alexander-Arnold, Justin, and Vinagre. So I was lucky in that I kept Vinagre. His values dropped, but I mean he's going to start this game at the very least. So let's see where that goes. And keepers, I have Ryan and McCarthy. I think I'm going to go for McCarthy in my starting lineup this week. They're playing Burnley. And Southampton, they started badly, but Brighton play United. So I'll just go with McCarthy. And that I think is 4-5-1. last minute changes are likely going to be Havertz for Greenwood, but that'll mean I take a 4-point hit. But I think it's worth it. And I was making a few considerations long term to get in Odin's and maybe a couple of Leeds forwards like Helder Costa or Bamford maybe, but as of now I'm just sticking with these guys. My bench is Davis and a couple of other randoms, Callum Robinson, legend, and what some other guy I can't remember.
See, this is the thing with Aman, man. I feel like luck always turns Aman's way. Aman's patient.
Very lucky.
Aman's patient and somehow just shit works out, man. But yeah. Anyway, so do you want to close out this episode, Sean?
Yeah, interesting that none of us might have James after
Yeah, that's a
start
good point.
Everton have had.
You do.
I have him, but I mean, he's going if I'm getting Jimenez.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like that's what wildcard does to you, right? You just overthink and eventually.
That's what FPL does to you, man.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been a lot of classic overthinking. I definitely am looking at my team right now and I'm like, when I wildcarded initially, this is not the kind of setup I was going for. So
Yeah.
I'm literally, it's possible that tomorrow I wake up with an entirely different piece of a team and overthink the fuck out of it. But yeah, captains wise, right? I think who's your captain this week and who do you feel comfortable captaining?
You just can't not captain De Bruyne, I think.
Yeah.
It just has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, same for me. I think Sterling is one of those players, if I had him, he's one of those players that I don't want to have, but I don't want anyone else to have either. Because, especially in our little mini league, when I see one of us, if one of you have Sterling, it scares the shit out of me before City play because you don't know with him. He'll get you like, he pep roulette, he may not start. You'll be happy first half, second half he'll come on 3 goals and an assist. You just have no idea with him. At home to Leicester, I feel like Sterling could be a good captaincy bet, but Leicester look good. De Bruyne, fixture proof always. Someone I'm considering right now is actually Salah because they're facing Arsenal at home. Liverpool love playing Arsenal at Anfield just historically. Arsenal do look better than they have in the recent past, so that's one to think about. But I think I might go with De Bruyne. 2 weeks ago, you asked me, I would have captained Mitrovic, like eyes closed at home to Aston Villa. But now I'm not captaining any differential. I'm just not going to captain any differential ever again. I think De Bruyne or Salah for me, and I'm pretty certain it's going to be De Bruyne.
Sean?
I've been thinking about Salah the whole time. Would love to just watch him rip Arsenal a new one. I think I'll go with Salah. But yeah, I get the De Bruyne argument.
But honestly, I can see a Salah hat-trick easily.
Yeah. I can see a Son brace as well against Newcastle
Son,
at home.
That's the one thing I've been thinking about. Like, I just feel like
I hate thinking about that guy.
Son just, I don't know, man. I feel like Son is the most obvious pick right now, which I don't have in my team, and I'm just like,
no, man. But the thing is, Newcastle plays so deep, and they're playing away to Spurs.
That's true. Thanks for saying that, by the way. Thanks for being a bit rational about that. Because genuinely, like, I'm very happy with my team as is, but as soon as I start doing this overthinking, because I'm very happy having Sterling. I'm very happy having Sterling for Leicester. I'm very happy having. I'm almost jizzing thinking about the thought of Sterling against Leeds. Dude, Leeds are gonna be. Leeds aren't gonna change the way they play. They aren't. They're going to be exactly the way they played against Liverpool, against City, dude. If De Bruyne creates even half the chance he usually creates for Sterling, I can see Sterling scoring a hat-trick easily against Leeds.
What I can see happen against Leeds is Pep overthinks because he's coming up against Bielsa and he loves him.
Yeah,
and he goes like a weird, he'll start with Liam Delap and
Fernandinho up front or something.
Sterling false 9. Yeah, but anyway, but I think this was a great episode because I think what really brought the light, what was really brought to light in this episode was that despite, as Ishan mentioned, despite a lot of us initially wildcarding to bring in certain players, by the end of our wildcard we're kind of sort of drifting away from them, and what our wildcard team probably was at the start of this week isn't really what it was at the end of this week, especially when we're looking at the trends. And that's probably because we're looking at a wildcard from a more longer term perspective, but also I think so much at play here, right? Dynamics of who do you think is owned by how many percentage of players, who do you think is a good differential you want to have in your team, who do you think you really like, who do you think you really don't want to have in your team. So I think that's been covered really well in this episode, and I think going forward there's only going to be more disappointment because clearly we've not gone with some of the safer picks, especially Trent Alexander-Arnold for Ishan. I can see us being disappointed about that. I can see us that despite 4 goals in a week, the so-called FPL experts have not picked Son in their team, and if he scores another brace or 2 coming forward, I'm sure there's going to be jokes about that. But
watch Martial score a brace now.
I think one thing that you mentioned about differential picks, someone that just came up in my head at this point, and probably a similar price range to Havertz is Riyad Mahrez. We haven't spoken about him.
Yeah,
he
I was
doesn't
thinking
really start.
about that he hasn't even been mentioned till now.
Yeah, he's someone that you never know. He could get you a big point. While it's Leicester, Pep is one for emotions. I don't know if he's going to start Mahrez against his former team. I don't know, Pep roulette. I actually didn't catch the Carabao Cup game, so I'm not sure if he played that game. He probably did since he didn't start. So that probably usually means that he's not going to start against Leicester at home. But if he does, he's one to watch out for, I think.
I just feel like the reason I went for Sterling is that I just feel like there's no way he's not going to start.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's going to start almost 99% of the time. With Mahrez, I think the percentage goes down to about 50, right? It's a really won't team. And once he starts, I feel like Sterling is as explosive as a Mahrez.
Probably even more so.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you pay what you must for that. 3 is what you pay, man. That's a huge differential between the two. But I think with Foden coming in, Mahrez becomes a little less exciting because Foden's again that sort of asset that starts and is 6.5 and sort of has that not nailed characteristic to him. So I feel like he would be that third City asset to consider rather than say Mahrez. Maybe that's the reason we've not mentioned him.
How long are we cutting this video down?
So I think if you remove the parts in between, which was the last part of the first video, we could get it down to 1 hour 45.
I think.
And you guys are sending me
there was a lot.
your video.
Yeah, we're sending you our video.
You get 2 videos.
And they both have the audio in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do I send mine, by the way? Dude, it's probably going to be like a massive file, right?
Yeah, I mean ours will be even bigger.
See, the good thing is we'll probably put it on overnight and it'll be there. You need it. Are you going to be editing it right now?
Not right at this moment, but I can do it tonight my time, which is morning.
Yeah, so it'll probably be up by.
Let's see how long it takes.
We have.
Bharat, maybe you can send or you can upload it to the same Google Doc or whatever.
Yeah, we basically what we're doing, Bharat, is we're uploading it to our Gmail ID which we've created for this.
So we can do this every week. We'll upload it and then delete it after releasing the.
So you upload it to the drive for that.
We'll send you the drive for this. We'll send you the
As
password.
in, there's one email ID for this podcast. So we'll just upload it to that Google Drive.
Okay, cool.
But will it be like if he's uploading it and we're uploading at the same time? Will it be?
Yeah, so why don't I just upload it to my own, and then because I have storage, so I can just upload it to my own and then send it to Aman.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, if you have.
Don't stop it now.
But we need to do the closing out bit also.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't stop it.
Okay, but I thought we could just stop it so that he doesn't have to cut out. We don't have to send him a huge file.
Okay, so let's close it now. So thanks guys.
I'm not recording
sorry.
this last video bit.
Oh.
Okay. I'm not recording my last.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
This
that's
one.
So I can stop mine as well, right?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
So, guys, thank you for tuning into FPL. This was our third episode. Please follow us on Spotify. Please subscribe on our YouTube. Fuck off, Ishan.
You should put that in there.
I'm done. Can't believe you just went, fuck off, Ishan.
Okay, fine.
So, guys, thank you for tuning in to our third episode of FPL. Please follow us on Spotify and Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you on the
Not
next
for
one.
any advice, just for like banter, because clearly we don't give any good advice.